It always begins with you, not the audience, not the applause, not the support system. You are the architect of the belief that builds the foundation for everything that comes next. Before the world notices, before the family understands, before the friends nod their heads and say, I knew you could do it. You have to be the one who knows it, not wonders. Knows. That kind of belief doesn't shout. It doesn't boast. It whispers in quiet moments in the corners of doubt, keep going. Belief is not about being loud or dramatic. It's about being rooted. It's the difference between someone who hopes things might work out and someone who decides that it will, no matter what. And when you decide, you change the way you walk. You change the way you talk to yourself. You change the way you wake up in the morning. You stop waiting for someone else to push you, and you start pushing yourself. That's when belief becomes power. No one sees the blueprint inside your mind. They don't hear the late night thoughts, the early morning commitments, the little agreements you make with yourself. They don't see the invisible effort that goes into becoming something more than you were yesterday. So naturally, they won't always understand your ambition. Some will even resist it, not because they're cruel, but because your belief in yourself reminds them of their lack of it. And when that happens, don't get bitter, get better. Let their doubt fuel your discipline. You cannot afford to wait for perfect conditions or unanimous approval. If you need everyone's permission to start, you'll never move. The truth is, most people only believe after results show up. They believe when the book is published, when the product sells, when the name appears on the door. But you can't wait for that. You have to be the kind of person who believes while the page is still blank, while the work is still silent, while the door is still closed. That's the mark of someone who's going somewhere. Belief is a choice, not once, but over and over again. You choose to trust yourself when the voice in your head says you're not enough. You choose to take the next step when you don't even know what the 10th one looks like. You choose to show up and do the work even when nobody notices, especially when nobody notices, because that's when the roots go deep. That's when the real growth happens. There will be moments when you feel tired, moments when progress feels slow and results feel distant. That's when most people quit, not because they lack talent, but because they lacked belief. The inner belief that says, even if no one else believes, I still do. That's the shield that protects you when criticism comes. That's the fuel that keeps the fire burning when you're out of motivation. That's what carries you from intention to execution. When you believe in yourself, you give yourself permission to fail forward. You no longer see failure as identity, but as instruction. You learn, you adjust, you rise, and when you do, you build something stronger than confidence. You build conviction. Conviction is not shaken by opinions or setbacks. It holds steady in the storm because it's not borrowed from anyone else. It was built in silence, built when no one clapped, built when no one cared. And that kind of belief becomes contagious, not immediately, but eventually. One day someone will look at you and say, how did you do it? And your answer will be simple. I believed when no one else did, not in arrogance, not in pride, but in quiet certainty that what you carry inside is worth fighting for. And once you believe that, the rest starts to take shape. Opportunities find you. Growth finds you. But only after you've found belief within yourself first. There will be seasons in your life when your biggest ideas are met with nothing but silence, no nods of approval, no cheers of support, just stillness. And in that stillness, your mind starts to play tricks on you. You begin to wonder if they don't believe in you. You begin to question whether your dream is foolish or your plan is flawed. But silence doesn't always mean rejection. Sometimes it just means people don't know how to respond to something they don't understand, and that's okay. It's not their job to believe in you louder than you act. That part is yours. You see, people respond to results. That's the language the world understands. Results cut through silence. They don't need translation. They don't need explanation. When people see you show up day after day, doing the work, putting in the effort, staying focused when it would be easier to quit, they start to pay attention. Not always with words, but with eyes, with respect, and eventually with trust. But all of that starts with you doing the work while the room is still quiet. You must never let someone else's lack of enthusiasm determine your level of effort. If you wait for applause to start running, you'll spend your whole life walking in circles. Most people won't cheer at the starting line. They're waiting at the finish line. And that's not a bad thing. It's just human nature. So don't take their silence personally. Instead, let your actions be so consistent, so clear, and so powerful that they speak volumes without you having to say a word. It's easy to get discouraged when those closest to you don't offer the encouragement you hoped for. But sometimes they're just unsure, not because they don't love you, but because they've never seen anyone chase something big and actually stick with it. Maybe they've seen too many people start with fire and end in ashes, so they hold back, not to hurt you, but to protect themselves from believing in something that might not last. What they don't realize is that you're not looking for a spark that dies. You're building a flame that endures, and you don't need noise to light it. Just commitment. Let every early morning be your proof. Let every late night be your declaration. Let every failure that you turn into a lesson become your silent testimony. That's how you speak louder than silence. That's how you win without shouting. It's in the way you keep going. It's in the way you finish what you start. It's in the way you treat the quiet seasons not as punishment, but as preparation. People are watching even when they're not talking. They're paying attention to how you respond to setbacks, to how you handle pressure, to whether or not your energy fades when no one is clapping. And when they see that you're consistent without a crowd, that you're driven without attention, that you're committed without celebration, they begin to believe even if they never say it. They begin to notice even if they never mention it, because action speaks to places that words cannot reach. The silence becomes your training ground. It sharpens your discipline. It clarifies your intention. It reveals whether you're doing it for applause or for purpose. That's where the real work happens. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Not when everyone's watching, but when no one is. That's when your craft gets refined. That's when your character gets tested. That's when your purpose becomes unshakable. So if you're walking through a silent season, keep walking. If no one's clapping yet, keep building. Don't let the quiet deceive you. You're not being ignored. You're being prepared. Because the day will come when the silence breaks. And when it does, let it break, because your actions spoke so loudly, the world could no longer pretend not to hear them. There comes a time in every journey when the only voice left is your own. The room gets quiet. The encouragement fades. The support system you thought would stay close begins to drift. And in that moment, you're left with one person. Not your coach, not your mentor, not your friend. Just you. And the mirror becomes your daily meeting place. That simple piece of glass holds the most honest version of your progress. It reflects not only your face, but your effort, your integrity, your discipline, or your excuses. The mirror doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't care what your plans were. It only shows what you did. It doesn't care what you said you would do last Monday. It only shows what you followed through on. And when you learn to face the truth without running, you start to grow. Because real growth begins with accountability, and the mirror is the one place where accountability can't be dodged. You don't need a crowd to keep you honest. You need a standard. And every morning, that mirror gives you a chance to look yourself in the eye and ask the real questions. Did I show up yesterday? Did I do the work? Did I follow through when it got hard? Did I push past the moment I felt like quitting? Not for anyone else, for me, for the person in this mirror. It's easy to seek approval from the outside, to wait for someone else to tell you you're on the right track. But the truth is, you already know. Deep down, you know if you gave it your best or if you held back. You know if you made excuses or made effort. And when you can stand in front of the mirror and say, I did everything I could today, that's a kind of confidence no applause can give, because it's not borrowed, it's earned. The mirror is not just a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who you're becoming. And you can't fool it with charm or clever words. It doesn't care about your intentions. It shows your habits. It doesn't respond to motivation. It responds to movement. Every time you look at it, it asks silently, what did you build today? Not what you planned, not what you hoped, but what you did. And the answer is always clear, whether you want it to be or not. There will be mornings when you look in that mirror and feel tired, worn out, maybe even defeated. That's when you need to remember what you're fighting for. Not a title, not a trophy, but self-respect. Because when no one else is watching, when the stage is empty and the lights are off, that's all you've got. And if you've shown up with effort, if you've stayed honest with yourself, you can look back into your own eyes and find strength, not from perfection, but from progress. Let the mirror be your coach. Let it be your scoreboard. Let it be the place you return to every day, not for criticism, but for clarity. It won't cheer you on, but it will challenge you. It won't lie to make you feel better, but it will push you to be better. And that kind of honesty is rare. That kind of reflection is priceless. Many people avoid the mirror, not because of how they look, but because of what they haven't done. But when you turn toward it instead of away, you build courage. You build ownership. You stop waiting for others to tell you what you're worth because you already know. And it's not based on how loud you talk or how big you dream. It's based on how consistently you act, how faithfully you follow through, and how deeply you respect your own word. At some point, someone is going to look you straight in the eyes and say, you can't do it. It might be subtle, a raised eyebrow, a doubtful smile, a polite silence, or it might be blunt laughter, sarcasm, a reminder of your past failures. Whatever form it takes, the message is the same. They don't believe in your dream, your plan, or your ability. And when that moment comes, you have a choice. You can accept their doubt as truth and shrink, or you can treat it as a test and rise. Doubt has a voice. It tries to sound reasonable. It says, be realistic. It whispers, don't get your hopes up. It cautions, what if you fail? And if you're not careful, that voice becomes familiar, comfortable, logical. But that voice rarely speaks from a place of faith. It speaks from fear. Most of the time, when people doubt you, it has more to do with their limitations than with your potential. They speak from their wounds, their missed chances, their own unspoken regrets. And if you take their doubt personally, you inherit their limits. You must understand that doubt from others is not a verdict. It is not a final judgment on your ability or your future. It's a challenge, a question. Are you strong enough to keep going even when the people around you don't believe? Are you committed enough to show up even when they walk away? Can you trust yourself more than you trust their opinions? Because if you can, then the doubt becomes fuel. The resistance becomes your training. And every time you take a step forward in the face of disbelief, you become stronger. Greatness is rarely born in a room full of cheerleaders. It is born in silence, in struggle, in defiance. History is filled with people who were doubted, dismissed, and overlooked, and yet they pressed on, not because someone handed them a permission slip, but because they refused to be defined by someone else's lack of vision. The world didn't see what they saw, but they kept building anyway. And because of that, we remember their names. Not because they were liked, but because they were relentless. You don't need universal agreement to chase your calling. You need conviction. You don't need everyone to say yes. You just need to stop saying no to yourself. Let people doubt you. Let them question your plan, your path, your process. That's their right. But it's not your reality. Your reality is built by the work you put in, the discipline you develop, and the belief you hold when no one else does. And the beautiful thing is, over time, doubt has a way of turning into admiration when it sees the results that can't be ignored. But don't work just to prove them wrong. Work to prove yourself right. There's a big difference. If your motivation is to silence critics, then the critics still control you. But if your motivation is to honor your gift, to live up to your potential, to become who you were designed to be, then no critic can reach you. Because your effort is rooted in purpose, not pride. Let their doubt sharpen you. Let it remind you that your vision is yours for a reason. You weren't meant to be understood by everyone. Some people won't get it. Some won't see it until it's finished. That's okay. Build anyway. Train anyway. Show up anyway. The test is not whether they believe. The test is whether you believe enough to keep moving forward without their approval. Because if you can do that, then the doubt becomes part of your story, not the end of it, but the spark that made you stronger. There's a story behind every name you know, a beginning that nobody saw, a chapter that wasn't broadcast, a struggle that didn't make headlines. The truth is every champion once walked in the shoes of the unseen. Every success you admire was once a person simply trying to figure it out. Before the applause, there was discipline. Before the recognition, there was routine. Before the spotlight, there was solitude, and in that solitude, something powerful was born, not fame, not fortune, but resolve. We often forget that those we admire most had to believe in themselves when they had no evidence, no track record, and no audience. They didn't wake up to standing ovations. They woke up to alarm clocks, early mornings, and long days. They failed in private. They cried in silence. They wrestled with doubt when no one was watching. And yet they kept going, not because someone handed them a trophy, but because they had a reason to keep showing up even when no one noticed. You see, becoming a champion isn't about being born with more talent than everyone else. It's about being willing to do what others won't. It's about carrying yourself like a champion long before the world gives you that title. It's about showing up like it matters even when it feels like no one cares. That's where it begins. That's the foundation greatness is built on. quiet, unglamorous effort. The problem is we live in a world that celebrates outcomes but forgets the process. We admire the highlight reel but skip the behind the scenes. We praise the result but ignore the repetition. And if you're not careful, you'll fall into the trap of thinking champions are different, that they're special, that they had it easier. But look closely and you'll find something else entirely. You'll find years of unnoticed work. You'll find people who were told to quit, who were advised to play it safe, who were laughed at, ignored, or underestimated, and who kept going anyway. There's something sacred about the season of being unknown. It's where you discover your grit. It's where you learn to hold yourself accountable. No interviews, no praise, no shortcuts, just you and the work. And when you embrace that season, when you stop trying to rush it and start trying to master it, that's when everything begins to shift. Because once you've worked in the dark, the light doesn't scare you anymore. You don't need approval. You don't need permission. You just need consistency. People may not notice your effort right away. They may not understand your vision. They may even laugh when you talk about your goals. That's fine. Let them. While they're laughing, you're learning. While they're watching, you're working. And one day, the results will speak for themselves. Because results have a way of changing the conversation when the scoreboard shifts. So do the opinions. But your job isn't to chase opinion. It's to chase growth. And here's what most people don't understand. Being unknown gives you freedom. It gives you room to fail, to explore, to stretch. No expectations, no pressure, just progress. Use that. Let your anonymity be your advantage. Train like you're preparing for something the world hasn't seen yet, because you are. Don't rush to be seen. Learn to be ready. Build something that can stand the weight of recognition when it comes. You don't become a champion when the world says you are. You become a champion the moment you decide you will not settle for average. The moment you treat every practice like the real thing. The moment you stop waiting to be discovered and start acting like you've already been called. Because in truth, the only thing separating you from the ones you admire is the time you're willing to invest while no one's watching. Every champion started as an unknown, but they didn't stay there. They earned the title through action, through repetition, through a quiet determination that outlasted doubt. And outworked comfort. Belief is powerful. It's where everything begins. But belief alone is never enough. You can believe in your potential, believe in your dream, believe that you're meant for more. But without action, that belief dries up, it cracks, it fades. Just like the richest soil turns to dust without water, belief without discipline becomes nothing more than a forgotten hope. It's discipline that keeps belief alive. It's what turns vision into progress, ideas into results, and dreams into reality. Most people are waiting to feel ready before they start. They wait to feel motivated, to feel inspired, to feel supported. But discipline doesn't wait for a feeling. Discipline shows up when you don't want to. It works when no one's watching. It moves forward without applause. And that's what gives belief its power. Because belief can inspire you to begin, but only discipline can carry you to the finish. Every day you get the opportunity to water the soil of your belief. Not with empty talk, but with decisions, with effort, with small steps done consistently. And each time you do, your roots grow deeper. Your mindset grows stronger. Your commitment grows clearer. And that's when belief transforms from something you say to something you live. It's not about shouting from the rooftops that you believe in yourself. It's about proving it in silence, one disciplined action at a time. Discipline teaches you to move even when the path is unclear. When the future looks foggy, belief can give you the courage to step forward. But it's discipline that keeps you from turning back. The world will always present you with distractions, reasons to stop, reasons to delay, reasons to lower the bar. But discipline teaches you to say no to ease and yes to purpose. It teaches you to stay aligned with your goals, even when your emotions try to pull you away. There's a quiet power in doing what you said you would do. It's a kind of strength that doesn't make noise, but it makes results. Every time you honor your own word, your confidence grows. Not because someone else believes in you, but because you've started believing in your own ability to follow through. That's what builds the foundation of self-respect. You stop being at the mercy of motivation and start becoming a master of your own consistency. The most successful people aren't the ones who always feel excited about their work. They're the ones who do it whether they feel like it or not. They've learned that emotions are temporary, but results are lasting. They don't rely on hype, they rely on habit. And those habits are shaped by discipline. They've watered the soil long enough to see something grow. and they keep watering even when the weather doesn't cooperate. Belief gives you direction, but discipline gives you motion. Belief says you can do it. Discipline asks, will you do it? It's not about being perfect. It's about being committed. Showing up on the days when it's boring, on the days when it's hard, on the days when everything else seems easier. Because those are the days when your belief is tested and your discipline becomes your answer. You don't need to do 1,000 things to change your life. You need to do the right few things again and again and again. Discipline isn't loud or dramatic. It's steady. It's quiet. It's the decision to stay in the game long after others have stepped off the field. And when it's paired with belief, the combination becomes unstoppable. There's a kind of beauty in discipline. It doesn't care how talented you are. It doesn't care how many times you've failed. It only asks one thing. Will you keep showing up? Will you keep watering the soil? Will you keep feeding the belief that lives inside you, even when no one else can see it growing? That's how greatness is built. Slowly, quietly, with faith in the seed and a commitment to the process. When no one else believes in you, that's not the end of the road. It's the beginning of a powerful journey, a journey where belief must start within. Because if you're waiting for someone else to hand you confidence, you might wait a lifetime. But if you truly decide that your dream is worth it, then you become the force that drives it forward. You become the voice that silences doubt, the action that breaks the silence, the mirror that reflects discipline, the spirit that grows stronger through resistance, the unknown that becomes undeniable, and the seed that grows into something unshakable. You don't need applause to start. You need conviction. You don't need proof to begin. You need belief. And not belief backed by noise, but belief backed by effort, by consistency, by a relentless refusal to give up when things get quiet, lonely, or hard. That's what separates those who wish from those who win. The world may not believe in you yet, but it will. Just give it something to believe in. Let your journey be your statement, your results be your reply, and your discipline be your legacy. Believe in yourself when no one else does, and keep walking until they can't ignore you anymore.